At 85, Tony Curtis breaks silence on his secret. Romance with a co-star. Tony Curtis's relationships tell the story of a Hollywood legend with a romantic life that matched his dramatic performances. The charming actor claimed to have bedded 1,000 women in his lifetime. Some of his affairs remained secret until his last years. His reputation as a ladies' man never revealed one particular romance that stayed hidden for decades. Classic Hollywood celebrated Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh's marriage in June 1951, as they became one of its most glamorous power couples. Their picture-perfect union produced 2 daughters, including Jamie Lee Curtis, but a different reality existed behind the scenes. Curtis went on to marry 6 times and had 6 children. His complex romantic journey captivated both fans and critics. The couple's story began at an RKO party in Hollywood in 1950. Curtis later proposed to Leigh over the phone. Their seemingly ideal relationship faced hidden challenges that Curtis revealed only at age 85. Tony Curtis reveals secret romance at 85. Tony Curtis dropped a bombshell that rocked Hollywood in 2009. The 84-year-old actor broke his decades of silence with a memoir, The Making of Some Like It Hot, My Memories of Marilyn Monroe in the Classic American Movie. His stunning revelation: he and Marilyn Monroe had a secret affair during the filming of their 1958 comedy classic. The book went beyond their professional relationship and revealed an intimate romance hidden for over 50 years. Curtis wrote about rekindling a brief relationship from 1949 with Monroe during Some Like It Hot production. His most shocking claim was that Monroe got pregnant with his child during filming, but later lost the baby. Why he chose to speak now? Several reasons pushed Curtis to share this explosive information after 50 years of silence. His mid-80s brought freedom from career and personal pressures that kept him quiet earlier. The death of key figures, Monroe, her husband Arthur Miller, and Curtis's wife, Janet Leigh, removed any risk of personal fallout. Curtis had published his autobiography, American Prince, in 2008 without mentioning Monroe's pregnancy. This suggests he wanted to share these revelations in a separate book about Some Like It Hot to create more interest. I loved the idea of working with Marilyn in a movie, Curtis wrote. My marriage wasn't good, and I didn't know about hers, but I had this crazy idea that something might happen between us during filming. The affair haunted Curtis for decades. He told his biographer Michael Munn 30 years later that this episode sent him into depression and helped destroy his marriage to Leigh. The memoir became both his confession and healing. How the revelation came to light. News broke in August 2009, just before the book's September 28th release. Media outlets jumped on the sensational aspects of Curtis's claims. The book describes how Curtis and Monroe's relationship sparked again on September 10th, 1958, after weeks of on-set tension. Their secret affair led to a dramatic scene in Monroe and Miller's trailer. Curtis went to apologize to Miller. Miller demanded Curtis say sorry for sleeping with my wife. Monroe announced her pregnancy, hinting Curtis was the father. Curtis remembered being stunned and said, "I just stood there. The room was so silent that I could hear tires screeching on Santa Monica Boulevard." Curtis made a bold claim. It couldn't have been Miller's because he wasn't up to the job anymore. Critics questioned Curtis's story. Film critic Mick LaSalle noted, Tony Curtis's new book underscores one of the unsung advantages of longevity. If you live long enough, You can claim to have had sex with any of your contemporaries so long as they're not around to deny it. The story got more complicated as Curtis changed details over time. He first said they met in 1948, but Monroe wasn't acting then. His 2009 memoir moved their first romance to 1950, when Monroe started gaining fame after The Asphalt Jungle and All About Eve. Curtis wrote about the affair with mixed emotions. What I experienced with her was unforgettable. Yet he admitted, when I was in bed with Marilyn, I was never sure, before, during, or after, where her mind was. The affair ended suddenly. After confronting Miller, Curtis had to finish the film, but stay away from Monroe and Miller. He learned about Monroe's miscarriage after filming wrapped an event that affected him deeply for the rest of his life. Who was the mystery co-star in Curtis's secret affair? Tony Curtis kept his secret lover's identity hidden for most of his life, until his explosive memoir revealed one of Hollywood's most intriguing secrets. The mystery woman turned out to be Marilyn Monroe, the blonde bombshell who became the very definition of sex appeal and stardom. Monroe's role as his secret lover added another fascinating chapter to Curtis's already complicated love life. Clues from his memoir. Curtis's book, The Making of Some Like It Hot, My Memories of Marilyn Monroe and the Classic American Movie, dropped several hints about their relationship. He carefully described their first romantic encounter in 1949 as a brief but passionate moment before either of them became famous. Their attraction sparked again on September 10, 1958, after what he called nearly 6 weeks of on-set tension. The memoir shared private details that made his claims believable. Curtis wrote about Monroe with mixed emotions. What I experienced with her was unforgettable, he said. But he also admitted, when I was in bed with Marilyn, I was never sure before, during, or after where her mind was. These personal observations suggested they shared real intimacy. Curtis's stories of their secret meetings were just as revealing. He wrote about carefully planned late-night meetups to avoid public attention. This mattered a lot since they were both married at the time, Curtis to Janet Leigh and Monroe to playwright Arthur Miller. He also described a dramatic scene in Monroe's trailer where Miller confronted him about the affair and revealed Monroe's pregnancy. The memoir included never-before-seen photos that showed them in seemingly innocent on-set moments. Curtis claimed these pictures held hidden meanings, casual touches, and long glances that actually pointed to their secret relationship. Speculation and confirmation. Curtis's 2009 revelations got mixed reactions from the entertainment world. People split into two groups, those who believed his story and others who wondered why he waited decades after Monroe's death to tell it. Film historian Anthony Summers noted that Curtis's timeline matched known facts about the production. He warned that memories can get fuzzy after 50 years. Several people on the Some Like It Hot set had already written about the tension between the co-stars. Director Billy Wilder once mentioned their electric chemistry. Some people found problems with Curtis's different versions of events. He said they first met in 1948, but Monroe wasn't a known actress then. His 2009 memoir changed this to 1950 after she gained fame through The Asphalt Jungle and All About Eve. Film critic Mick LaSalle made a sharp observation. Tony Curtis's new book underscores one of the unsung advantages of longevity. If you live long enough, you can claim to have had sex with any of your contemporaries, so long as they're not around to deny it. Curtis had changed his story about Monroe over the years. In a well-known 1978 interview, someone asked what it felt like to kiss Monroe during filming. He supposedly said it was like kissing Hitler, though he later claimed people misquoted him. Before his memoir, he sometimes hinted at romantic feelings for Monroe, but never confirmed they had an affair. Since Monroe isn't alive to confirm or deny their relationship, Curtis's memoir remains the main source about their supposed romance. This was his final revelation in a life that included 6 marriages and many affairs. His romantic adventures made him almost as famous as his impressive film career. How Curtis and the co-star kept their romance hidden. The glittering world of Hollywood's golden age hid a secret romance between Tony Curtis and Marilyn Monroe. The 1950s saw actors bound by strict contracts that forced them to keep up appearances at all costs. Studio pressures and public image. Studio bosses ruled their stars' personal lives with an iron fist in 1950s Hollywood. Universal International tried to stop Curtis from marrying Janet Leigh in 1951. They even offered him $30,000 to marry Piper Laurie instead. Studio head Leonard Goldstein called Curtis directly to ask him to think twice. Curtis knew the biggest problem wasn't his career. Leigh worked for their rival studio, MGM. The marriage turned Curtis and Leigh into Hollywood's power couple. Curtis later said, "No other husband and wife team came close to us until Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor." But that was 10 years later. The couple made their relationship work for their careers. They posed together for countless magazine shoots. Studios cast them together in movies like Houdini, 1953. Leigh kept their Beverly Hills home impeccably clean and neat, as if expecting at any moment a photographer from a fan magazine. Reality painted a different picture. Curtis openly enjoyed the adoration of fans, while Leigh played the aggrieved innocent. She'd stand apart at events and watch her husband's every move. She'd even signal him when he held his wine glass wrong. As whispers about their troubled marriage grew louder, Leigh wrote a long article for Silver Screen magazine. She denied the reports and insisted that she and Curtis remained profoundly in love. This desperate move showed how crucial image control was during the studio system era. Private rendezvous and coded communication. Curtis knew how to keep relationships secret long before his affair with Monroe. While dating Leigh, his jealousy showed. He'd park outside her house while she was out on dates with other men, and regularly call her to check her location and plans. His rekindled romance with Monroe in 1958, during filming, needed careful planning. Curtis's memoir tells of meetings at a friend's house on the beach, where they'd make love on the beach and grill steaks and hamburgers. These hidden spots helped them dodge Hollywood's watchful eyes. Their friend, Arthur Silber, described similar secret meetings for another Hollywood pair. "It was like we were in the FBI or something. I would drop him off in front of her house in Beverly Hills, and we would set up a time or a day for me to pick him up." Curtis likely used the same tricks with Monroe. The secret came crashing down in Monroe and Miller's trailer. Curtis went to say sorry to Miller, but Miller wanted an apology for sleeping with my wife. Monroe chose that moment to reveal her pregnancy. Curtis remembered, "The room was so silent that I could hear tires screeching on Santa Monica Boulevard." The truth finally surfaced when Monroe told her husband, Arthur Miller, everything. Miller confronted Curtis and told him to finish the film and stay out of our lives. Curtis ran to his dressing room, closed the door, and locked it. Their hidden love story had reached its end. What impact did the affair have on his marriage to Janet Leigh? The affair between Tony Curtis and Marilyn Monroe destroyed his seemingly perfect marriage to Janet Leigh. Their relationship couldn't survive the combined pressures of unfaithfulness jealousy, and substance abuse. Timeline overlap with Lee. Curtis and Lee's marriage started with high hopes in 1951. Problems surfaced quickly beneath their glamorous public image. Their 11-year marriage faced constant strain from Curtis's roving eye. His rumored affair with Monroe during Some Like It Hot filming in 1958 happened during a fragile time in their marriage. The timing became more complex with the birth of their second daughter, Jamie Lee Curtis. She later described herself as a save-the-marriage baby who failed at her unspoken task. Curtis pursued other women while Lee tried to save their marriage by growing their family. The marriage collapsed in 1962 when Curtis fell for his 17-year-old Tara Bulbous co-star Christine Kaufman. Kaufman was about half Curtis's age. Curtis asked for divorce that year while Lee worked on The Manchurian Candidate. This public humiliation devastated her. Emotional toll on both partners. Their relationship turned into a toxic mix of distrust, substance abuse, and verbal fights. Curtis became paranoid about Lee's male friendships and made baseless claims about her affairs with Frank Sinatra. His jealousy showed through controlling actions. Curtis would park outside Lee's house while she dated other men before their marriage, keep calling to check her location and plans, watch her interactions with male colleagues. Curtis later linked his insecurity to childhood trauma with his schizophrenic mother. There was no woman I could rely on except the girls I fell in love with. They gave me more security than my mother ever did. Lee's pain turned into alcoholism. She became a lousy, drunk, snarly, and belligerent. Their relationship turned into largely disdainful distance or intimate shouting matches. Their young daughters witnessed these arguments. Jamie Lee Curtis later called it a house of hatred. Lee tried to end her life. After learning about Curtis's affair with Kaufman, she swallowed a large number of red pills. Curtis saved her by forcing her to cough up most of the drugs. He then left her alone to be with Kaufman. These experiences left permanent scars. Jamie Lee Curtis revealed, "My parents hated each other my whole life. I was raised in a house of hatred. My mother persevered through it all and survived. I'm not sure my sister and I did." She compared their split to modern divorces. There was no Demi Moore and Bruce Willis amicable divorce or joint family vacations for us. No love was left between them. Curtis stayed away from his daughters for years afterward. Both shared different views about their failed marriage. Curtis said, "I was very dedicated and devoted to Janet, but in her eyes, that goldenness started to wear off." Lee chose to remember better times. "Tony and I had a wonderful time together. It was an exciting, glamorous period in Hollywood. A lot of great things happened, most of all, 2 beautiful children." How many wives did Tony Curtis have after Janet Lee? Tony Curtis married 5 more women over nearly 5 decades after his high-profile split from Janet Lee. The iconic actors' relationships often made headlines because of their age gaps and short durations. Christine Kaufman and the quick remarriage. Curtis's attention shifted to his 17-year-old German co-star, Christine Kaufman, from the film Taras Bulbous, right after separating from Lee. Their relationship sparked substantial controversy due to their 20-year age gap. Curtis was 38, while Kaufman had barely finished her teens. Curtis later admitted his marriage with Lee had effectively ended a year earlier, which showed his emotional distance before the official divorce. Curtis married Kaufman in 1963, just a year after divorcing Lee. This quick jump between marriages became a pattern in Curtis's relationships. The couple had two daughters, Alexandra, on July 19, 1964, and Allegra, on July 11, 1966. Both girls later became actors, like their parents. The marriage lasted only 5 years. Curtis and Kaufman split in 1968. Kaufman went back to Germany and continued her acting career, appearing in several films, including works by renowned director Rainer Werner Fassbinder. Subsequent marriages and divorces, Curtis didn't wait long to find his third wife. He married 23-year-old model Leslie Allen on April 20, 1968. The same year, his marriage to Kaufman ended. This became his longest marriage after Lee, lasting 14 years until 1982. They had two sons, Nicholas Bernard Curtis, born December 31, 1970, who died on July 2, 1994, and Benjamin Curtis, born May 2, 1973. His fourth marriage to Andrea Savio happened in 1984 and lasted 8 years until 1992. Curtis then married his fifth wife, Lisa Deutsch, on February 28, 1993. This turned out to be his shortest marriage, ending just a year later in 1994. Curtis met Jill Vandenberg at a restaurant in 1993, who became his sixth and final wife. They married on November 6, 1998, when Curtis was in his early 70s. Their 45-year age difference stood out. Vandenberg wasn't even born during Curtis's marriage to Janet Leigh. This marriage lasted until Curtis died in 2010 at age 84. Curtis's 6 marriages and 5 divorces show a complex pattern with much younger women. His daughter with Lee, Jamie Lee Curtis, shared a telling observation about her parents. "My parents' bond had deteriorated precipitously as their stardom grew." Her words might explain the challenges Curtis faced in his later relationships. Why Curtis kept the romance secret for decades, Hollywood's golden age saw studios wielding absolute control over their stars' personal lives. Many celebrities had to hide their true relationships. The secret affair between Tony Curtis and Marilyn Monroe stayed hidden for decades because of strict moral standards and career risks during that time. Fear of scandal in 1950s Hollywood. The entertainment industry of the 1950s followed a rigid moral code that controlled celebrities' behavior. Studios actively blocked relationships they didn't approve of. Universal's CEO, Leonard Goldstein, warned Curtis that marriage would ruin his career by alienating his fan base. The stakes proved even higher for actresses like Monroe. The system labeled women as either good girls or bad girls with barely any middle ground. Curtis felt like an outsider in the industry. "After I married Janet, I sensed some antagonism from people in Hollywood, maybe even because this Jewish kid had married a Shiksa screen idol. This feeling made him more cautious about revealing an extramarital affair that could damage his reputation further." Their relationship could have severe career consequences. Both stars reached critical points in their careers while filming Some Like It Hot in 1958. An affair between married stars would break the morality clauses in their contracts. The studios could retaliate harshly. They had to keep their secret to survive professionally. Respect for the co-star's privacy. Curtis stayed silent for decades out of respect for Monroe. News of their affair could have hurt her fragile emotional state, given her complicated relationship with her then-husband Arthur Miller. Monroe's relationships with powerful industry figures created complex situations. Her previous involvement with studio executive Joseph Schenck helped advance her career. Fox Studios dismissively called her Schenck's Girl, showing how romantic associations could damage women's careers. Curtis likely knew that revealing their affair would strengthen harmful beliefs about Monroe's path to success. Curtis's silence protected both their reputations. He managed to keep quiet even after her death in 1962 to protect her legacy. He finally shared the story in his 2009 memoir at age 84, after Monroe Miller and Lee had passed away. This timing removed any risk of causing personal pain. What Tony Curtis said about love in his final years. Tony Curtis spoke more openly about his complex relationship with love and intimacy during his later years. His reflections showed a man who had come to terms with his romantic history after 6 marriages and countless affairs. Quotes from his memoir. Curtis gave a startlingly honest explanation about his approach to relationships in his autobiography, American Prince. I loved her, and she loved me, but we both wanted to be in the movies, and that meant everything. He wrote about one of his early relationships. His career ambitions took precedence over his romantic connections. The sheer number of his romantic conquests stood out in his admissions. All through my life, I wanted to conquer every woman I met. And I've been very lucky. I was falling in love every day, Curtis confessed. They say I've had 1,000 women. I don't know about that, but I do know what was so important wasn't just the physical aspect. It was the intimacy. His emotional depth showed through the poetic verses he composed. You be the father, I be the son. You be the garden green, and I be the chum. I'll be the friendship looking for sails, deep in the ocean swimming with whales. So time does not bother, you're in my heart. When morning be coming, twilight will part. Reflections on intimacy and regret. Curtis spoke with raw honesty about his reasons for marriage. The marriages were based on the wrong reasons, he admitted. You got married for king privileges, so you didn't have to go out after work every night and try to get laid. Yet he managed to keep his stance that, I have always respected women, and that's why I spent my life chasing them. This contradiction defined his complex relationship with women. He recognized his pattern of selecting partners for superficial reasons. I made the mistake of marrying women that physically looked like what I needed, but would become domineering and try to change me and control my lifestyle. And I'm not going to stick around when that happens. Curtis found contentment at last with his final wife, Jill Vandenberg. Being with Jilly now is the most fun I've ever had in a marriage, he reflected. We share everything. If something upsets her, she tells me about it straight away. This relationship lasted until his death in 2010 and brought him the stability that had eluded him throughout his eventful romantic life. How the revelation reshapes Curtis's legacy. Tony Curtis's deathbed confession didn't just add another notch to his belt as a legendary lover, it fundamentally recontextualized his entire career and personal narrative. For decades, his on-screen persona was that of a charming, often comedic leading man, while his off-screen life was defined by his perfect marriage to Janet Leigh and a series of subsequent, often tumultuous relationships. The revelation of his affair with Marilyn Monroe, however, pulls back the curtain on the man behind the image, revealing a far more complex, haunted, and human figure. The Secret Romance transforms our understanding of Some Like It Hot. The film, long celebrated as a masterpiece of comedy, is now imbued with a layer of real-life tragedy and forbidden passion. The on-screen chemistry between Curtis and Monroe once seen as brilliant acting, now crackles with the energy of a genuine, high-stakes affair. The famous line, "It's like kissing Hitler," which Curtis later disavowed, becomes a poignant symbol of the emotional turmoil he felt torn between his passion for Monroe and his obligations to his wife and career. This final revelation forces us to see Curtis not just as a Hollywood playboy, but as a man who carried a profound and painful secret for 50 years. His admission of Monroe's pregnancy and subsequent miscarriage adds a devastating layer of loss to his story, suggesting that the affair was far more than a casual fling. It was a life-altering event that contributed to the dissolution of his marriage and left an indelible mark on his psyche. Ultimately, by breaking his silence, Tony Curtis cemented his legacy as one of Hollywood's most candid and complicated figures. He risked tarnishing his golden age image to tell a truth that had haunted him for a lifetime. In doing so, he gave us a final, unforgettable performance, not as a character on screen, but as a man laying bare the passionate, messy, and deeply human reality behind the Hollywood facade.